Senator Feinstein.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I hope, this is difficult. It forces one hearings open, and then they get opened, and reports get done, and then they get castigated for doing it. And in his 434-page report, IG Horowitz confirmed that the FBI had a legitimate reason to open the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. Attorney General Barr disagreed with the IG's finding and has since referred to it as the bogus Russiagate scandal. So this is the first time I have heard this kind of thing happening. And one witness told the IG that, quote, it would have been a dereliction of duty and responsibility of the highest order not to investigate. Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry, Senator, I absolutely agree that it would have been a dereliction of duty for us to not initiate the Crossfire Hurricane investigation in the way that we did.
Now, as I understand it, it was a counterintelligence investigation into Trump campaign ties to Russia. You opened a counterintelligence investigation into Trump himself after he fired former FBI Director Comey and linked Comey's termination to the Russia investigation. I don't know whether that's true or not. I'd like to know. You have said that if the FBI failed to open an investigation into Trump under those circumstances, we wouldn't be doing our job. I believe you said that on 60 Minutes. So I think it's pretty clear opening a counterintelligence investigation into a president is an extraordinary step. Why did you see it as necessary under those circumstances?
Well, Senator, there were a lot of things that were concerning us as we went through the opening and the process of investigating.
Please say what they were. I think it would be helpful to this conversation.
Sure. So we knew that the Russians had been targeting us. We had reason to believe, because of the friendly foreign government information, that the campaign had been aware of that and might have coordinated with them in those activities. So that's why we initiated the Crossfire investigation. After, as we proceeded with that investigation, we had a series of alarming, Director Comey had a series of alarming interactions with President Trump, in which it became pretty clear to us that he did not want us to continue investigating what the Russians had done. He actually asked at one point that we stop investigating General Flynn. He then fired Director Comey. He also asked that we state publicly that he was not under investigation. When we didn't do that and we didn't close the investigation on General Flynn, he fired Director Comey. He then stated publicly that he'd fired Director Comey thinking about the Russians. He then told the Russians that he had fired Director Comey and that had relieved a lot of pressure that had been on him. So we had many reasons at that point to believe that the president might himself pose a danger to national security and that he might have engaged in obstruction of justice if the firing of the director and those other things were geared towards eliminating or stopping our investigation of Russian activity.
So what was found on that point?
Well, that's the point, Senator, in which we handed the investigation on the first four people and the investigation of President Trump and the investigation of former Attorney General Sessions over to the special counsel team. And I think, we all know what happened at the conclusion of that investigation. The details that are provided in the Mueller report, I think, provide pretty solid results that verify and that our concerns were valid. So I'm very confident in the work that the special counsel did. And I think it proved that our concerns at that time were legitimate.
Would you go into some of those concerns and what the report showed?
Sure. So we opened the initial Crossfire hurricane investigation because predominantly the statements of George Papadopoulos, which indicated that people, maybe Mr. Papadopoulos, maybe others affiliated with the campaign, might be coordinating with Russia. My recollection of the results of the special counsel's investigation is that they found, I think it was over 100 different connections between people affiliated with or part of the Trump campaign and Russians or people affiliated with the Russian government or Russian intelligence services. So clearly our concern that there might be connections here that we should be looking into to ensure there's no danger to national security was proven true. On the obstruction of justice side, I think as is well known, Director Mueller concluded that he could not indict or seek an indictment of a sitting president due to Department of Justice policy. However, the volume 2 of the Mueller report lays out in pretty excruciating detail at least 10 different categories of behavior or activity that the president engaged in. And I think, to the best of my recollection, in at least 8 of those categories, the elements of the offense of obstruction of justice, evidence to prove each element of the offense of obstruction of justice, are present in those categories of behavior. So it's a bit legalistic, and I apologize for that explanation, but it is a fairly compelling case that the president was, in fact, engaging in behavior that you could easily categorize as obstruction of justice. So once again, our concern that the president might be obstructing justice was verified by the results of the Mueller report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.